because Symphony, other than recording it with Maurice Abravanel, has ever played it. And that was, of course, in Abravanel Hall. And again, this week with music director Thierry Fishers. So you can hopefully enjoy those facts, and if you find them boring, I'm sorry I brought them up. But I thought it was pretty interesting because he did not decide to program at 6, and I probably should find out
I think
more.
it's equally interesting.
Okay, good. So James was kind enough to bring the double bass here and to offer to do some, excerpts of the symphony instead of me just playing your recording. But we'll do a few snippets of that later on. And then we'll talk about the Haydn. Let's go a little out of sequence. Why don't we dive right into Mahler, if you don't mind? And I think you wanted to, did you start last night by wanting to read something?
Yeah, there
Please.
was an interesting quote that is in my miniature score to the Sixth Symphony. Mahler wrote a letter to his biographer, Richard Speck, in probably around 1904, 1905, something like that. And what he said was, he said, "My Sixth Symphony will present riddles to the solution of which only a generation will dare to apply itself, which has previously absorbed and digested my first 5 symphonies." Now, I don't know how many of you have fully absorbed and digested his first 5 symphonies. I know I haven't, and I've been playing them for 40 years now. But that doesn't mean you can't enjoy it. There's so much in there. I'm constantly finding new things that I haven't heard before or understood before. So it's sort of a lifelong journey, Mahler symphonies are.
And if I may mention before we listen to some of the excerpts, there is a little bit of, not controversy so much, but conductor has to make a decision on Mahler 6 that he or she does not have to make with any of the other Mahlers. Where do you place the Andante and the Scherzo? And you say, well, how can that be any question? Well, Mahler's publisher and his scores have the Scherzo movement 2nd and the Andante movement 3rd. But Mahler always conducted Mahler 6, his own 6th symphony, with the way you'll hear it tonight, with the first movement followed by the Andante movement, the Scherzo movement 3rd, and then the finale. And also, the other controversial question is, how many of the hammer blows are supposed to be struck in the finale? 2 or 3? And 2 is currently the way a lot of scholars are thinking it should be done. Bernstein and many others have always done the 3rd one, but I think if you know the piece at all and if you know where it comes, we can't demonstrate really where it comes, it doesn't seem right the 3rd time. So that's just some of our opinions. But Jamie, take it away on the wonderful excerpts you have for us on the piece.
Sure. I'll do the best I can with the mic. Let me know if I get too far away from it and you can't hear me talking.
I can raise it.
Yeah, you want to raise it?
Is that look good?
Yeah, that's great.
You want to tighten it? Here we go.
Okay, great. One of the things, coming from a composition, music composition background, one of the things I'm always curious about is where do composers get their material from? And ironically, one of the ways, not just Mahler, but a lot of composers get their material from is they steal it from other composers, of course. Whether it's conscious or just they have these tunes rolling around in their head. This is something very common today. I think not too long, or maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6, 10 years ago, there was that controversy with the rapper Vanilla Ice. There was a tune that somebody said that he stole, and there was a lawsuit about it. So, but it's been going on for centuries, actually. One of the tunes you'll hear is a tune from the Liszt E-flat piano concerto. Mahler took this tune. It's hard to believe that it was by accident, especially considering that there's evidence that he actually programmed the concerto, that concerto and the Sixth Symphony on the same concert. So it would have been hard to ignore. So if you're familiar with the Liszt E-flat piano concerto, you might remember this tune. Mahler Symphony all through the first movement, probably about 3 minutes in, you'll hear it in the bass trombone. So that's one thing to listen for. The other composer Mahler stole frequently from, or borrowed from, was a composer that he felt was probably the greatest living composer at that time, which of course was himself. How many of you were here for the Fifth Symphony about 2 weeks ago? And how many of you weren't? That doesn't quite add up to the full amount of people, but anyways, thank you for those of you who came and those of you who had something more important to do. I'll play a little bit of it for you. If you were here, you might have found yourself, as you were leaving the hall, whistling the tune from the second movement of that symphony. Do you remember that? Anyways, those basic notes actually make up a large portion of the thematic material for the Sixth Symphony as well. He reworks them, he changes them, and it's interesting, you may not be aware they're there because the contexts are different, the rhythms are slightly changed, but even though the symphony is an hour and 12 or 13 minutes long, there's a tremendous amount of unity in it because of this material that he works with. So that those same notes are used in the very first tune that you'll hear in the first movement in the violins. Later in that movement, you'll hear this in the horns and the strings. So then you notice that had a little dotted rhythm at the very end. And so he takes that dotted rhythm, combines that with the tune, and comes up with this theme for the scherzo. And then in the fourth movement, he kind of reverts back to that basic cell or germ of an idea, and you'll hear the tuba play this just a little bit after the fourth movement begins. And a little bit later, he changes it just slightly and comes up with this in the cellos and bassoons. So that's kind of just a Reader's Digest version of the thematic material. Please stay and listen to the whole thing. But those are, I hope you'll recognize those tunes and also feel that unity, that even though the work is complicated, it stems from relatively simple ideas, which he expands and puts in different contexts and tempos and dynamics and instruments. And then the other tune that I'm not going to play, that you're going to play, is a very important tune as well.
Yes, I mean, if we can play